Foolish freight cars. James did not come out of the shed for some time. He was not even allowed to push coaches or freight cars in the yard. So Topham had left him in there after he'd blown steam on his top hat. Oh dear, he thought sadly, I shall never be allowed out any more. I shall have to stay in the shed for always, and no one will ever see my red coat again. Oh dear, James began to cry. At last Sir Topham had arrived. I know that you're sorry, James, he said, and I know that you want to be a useful engine. People are laughing at my railway, and I do not like it at all. I will try hard to do my best, said James. That's a good engine. There's nothing like the termination. I want you to pull some freight cars for me. Run along and find them, please. So James puffed happily away. Here is your freight train, James, said a little tank engine. Have you got some bootlaces ready? And he ran off laughing rudely. Oh, said the freight cars as James backed down. We want a proper engine, not a red monster. James took no notice and started as soon as the conductor was ready. Come along, he puffed. We won't, screamed the freight cars. But James didn't care, and he pulled the screeching cars sternly out of the yard. The cars tried hard to make him give up, but he still kept on. Sometimes their brakes would slip on, and sometimes their axles would run hot. Each time they would have to stop and put the trouble right, and each time James would start again, determined not to let the cars beat him. Give up, you can't pull us, you can't, called the cars. I can and I will, puffed James. Slowly but surely he pulled them along the line. At last they saw Gordon's Hill ahead. Look out for trouble, James, warned his driver. We'll go fast and get them up the hill before they know it. Don't let them stop you. So James went faster and soon they were halfway up the hill. I'm doing it, he panted. But it was hard work. Will the top ever come? He thought, when with a sudden jerk it all became easier. I've done it, he puffed triumphantly. Hooray, he thought, it's easy now. But his driver shut off steam. They've done it again, he said. We've left our tail behind. The last 10 cars were running backwards down the hill. The coupling had snapped, but the conductor was brave. Very carefully, he made them stop. Then he got out and walked along the line with his red flag. That's why it was easy, said James as he backed the other cars carefully down. What silly things freight cars are. There might have been an accident. Meanwhile, the conductor had stopped Edward, who was pulling 3 coaches. Shall I help you, James? Called Edward. No, thank you, answered James. I'll pull them myself. Good, don't let them beat you. So James got ready. Then with a peep, peep, he was off. I can do it, he puffed. He pulled and puffed as hard as he could. Peep, 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 peep. You're doing well, whistled Edward, as James slowly struggled up the hill, with clouds of smoke and steam pouring from his funnel. I've done it, he panted, and disappeared over the top. They reached the station safely. James was resting in the yard when Edward puffed by with a cheerful peep, peep. Then, walking towards him across the rails, James saw Sir Topham Hatt. Oh dear, what will he say? He asked himself. But Sir Topham Hatt was smiling. I was in Edward's train and saw everything, he said. You've made the most foolish freight cars on the line behave. And after that performance, you deserve to keep your red coat.